A warm welcome to all of you to this round table on leading the new way for HR, presented by BIMTech in association with the National HRD Network and our knowledge partner Deloitte. On behalf of the organizers, we would like to thank each one of you for the overwhelming response to this evening event. We would also like to thank Bloomberg TV for coming on board with us as our TV partner for the event. I would now like to invite Dr. H. Chaturvedi, Director, Birla Institute of Management Technology, to deliver the welcome note.
It is a matter of great pleasure that in this HR Roundtable, presented by BIMTech in association with National HRD Network, Deloitte, and Bloomberg TV, we have amidst us some of the leading thought leaders from the Indian business and academia. Their views and experiences in today's HR Roundtable will be extremely relevant since they represent a wide spectrum of leadership in diverse areas. On behalf of BIMTech and its partners, I have great pleasure in welcoming the distinguished panelists in the HR Roundtable and all those stalwarts of the industry who are part of today's deliberations. Since Cannes' seminal article was published in 1990, employee engagement has commanded significant interest among management practitioners and scholars alike. Most organizations today realize that a satisfied employee is not necessarily the best employee in terms of loyalty and productivity. It is only an engaged employee who is intellectually and emotionally bound with the organization, who feels passionately about its goals and is committed towards its values. He goes beyond the basic job responsibility and is associated with the actions that drive the business. A majority of employees want work that is challenging, satisfying, and where there are opportunities for learning and development. While factors such as competitive pay might affect the decisions that employees make about working for a particular company, factors such as opportunities for learning and development are related to employees expressing a willingness to go the extra mile at work. Friends, we are hopeful that deliberations of this HR Roundtable, as it has happened in the past, when we organized roundtables 16 times across the country, will definitely provide us a robust and sustainable framework for connecting the relationship of organizational performance with the culture and engagement. Thank you for your kind response.
Now may I request Dr. Vishali Dongre to please join me on stage for our keynote session.
Good evening, everyone. So the task or the end objective of this part of the presentation is to only give a directional view. So what are the 10 trends which were being studied? So they have been divided into 4 different categories: leading, reinventing, engaging, and reimagining. And these are the various HR trends. There are total 10 HR trends. Now, globally, what are the top 3 trends is what we are going to talk about. The top 3 human capital trends which emerged was clearly the number 1 for global was culture and engagement, followed by leadership, and third, the learning and development. Now, my friends, this is only on the basis of importance. When you look at importance and urgency, then the statistical calculation shows some different results, and that means we might want to invest or work on those particular trends. Now, the good news is, in India, organizations are investing a little more than what the global is investing. So our HR investments have gone higher as compared to the global investments in HR. So that's a very good news, which lets us do a lot of things in this area. And let's now go to the 3 trends, global, Asia, and India comparison. Now, very interesting. If you notice the light blue and the dark blue bar, it is similar. What it means is we are a little closer in our findings with the global than in Asia. So the green bar is Asia. India trends are very similar to the global, not so very similar to the Asia. Even in our other research by George Burson, an associate, of course Burson is part of Deloitte now, it has found that the way we do career path, succession planning and leadership assessment and development is notch above the way it is done in China and the other parts of the globe. So these are our findings, and we have therefore picked up culture and engagement. So thank you so much. We've all heard of this phrase which says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. We keep hearing this. I've added one line to that. If culture eats strategy for breakfast, does it also feed the balance sheet? So does this have a financial impact? Softer impact, somewhat we know. Does it have a financial impact is what we will take as a first statement for discussion.
I think the moment we look at the word of culture and engagement, I think we are seeing these two things separate. To me, a more apt word would be culture of engagement, because engagement is a part of the culturing element of an organization. Certainly, since the time of Hofstede's work, we have seen that the culture of a company gets actually influenced by the culture of the country. When it is a small organization, it is a clan kind of a culture, and we have umpteen number of examples of organizations having a clan kind of a culture and giving excellent returns. The problem takes place when it becomes a little depersonalized. It goes towards the market. We possibly have not yet discovered a formula where we can have the cake and eat it too. I agree that culture has a very important influence, and it does impact the balance sheet.
The same question I'm going to ask to this lady. I just wanted to know, does the financial impact of culture is really relevant?
You know, I'll just step back a bit. What is culture? I mean, let's just try and define that. And I think it's just a way of, or a way of behavior, a way we set some norms to interact with each other. And over a period of time, it's a set of practices or behavioral codes which we get too used to, and it becomes an overarching culture. And I'll come to the question which Vaishali asked. But, you know, I was just thinking as I was listening to Professor Mitra, that, you know, I've worked with Citi now for too long, maybe too long for my own comfort, but I think very often I get this statement when I'm hiring somebody or I'm talking to somebody outside, you know, this person is like a Citi banker, or this person is like, you know, levers. But it's very typical statement. You've almost branded them because there is something in this person or this, you know, talented individual which you relate to this brand. And to me, that resonates to me in the way we behave in a particular company or a particular set of individuals. And I think that's the important bit about a culture. Coming back to the financial impact of the culture, I mean, I think you've answered that in your question when you say productivity and, you know, engagement and all those beautiful stats. Of course, that is related to the financial impact. And I would again draw upon what Professor Mitra was saying, culture of engagement, but it could also be a culture of disengagement.
Requesting Sir here, he comes from a complex organization where things are done innovatively, but they still have to follow a lot of processes and practices. So his view on culture, your view, sir, on the financial impact of culture.
One of the simplest definitions that has stuck with me for a long, long period of time of culture is of an organization is what you do when nobody watches you. So the employees in the organization, what they do when they are not under watch is what the culture of the organization is. That's the simplest definition that I've ever found of culture, and I would tend to believe that yes, if the culture of an organization is enabling in nature, it makes people perform better. And this we can see as HR professionals. When we work in organizations, we can observe between two sets of managers, one being an autocratic person, the other being not so autocratic. You will find people under the person who is not so autocratic are happier and they perform better and their delivery is much better. So I would tend to believe that yes, there is a direct correlation. The extent of correlation can vary from country to country, from industry to industry, but I would tend to believe that yes, culture does make a difference in terms of the financials of an organization, and there would be other factors as well.
Why don't I request Umesh, you first to throw some light on the relationship between, is it only behavioral impact or financial impact, as others have also been talking about?
As it has been said, that culture is the way you do everything. Culture is the way the organization moves. Actually, culture is the way you can achieve your balance sheet. Whatever you want to achieve, you have to actually start by the culture of the organization. Leadership drives the culture. Leadership evolves the culture. But actually, when the culture actually starts in the organization, you start seeing the things moving in the right direction, right way, and you get the right results. Absolutely direct correlation of culture, engagement, and balance sheet. I'm sorry to say, I don't see there are any organizations which are cultureless, weak culture, but every organization has its own culture. Remember, we all have been talking about Japanese culture, Korean culture, American culture, British culture, Indian culture. When these foreign companies, these MNCs came to India, they blended their culture with Indian culture. And that blend eventually gave us the results which we are seeing today. Therefore, the real culture and real engagement can actually get you what you want.
Krishnan, last but not the least, if you can throw some light on that.
I think culture, I mean, it's a word which is used very extensively. I mean, the way I look at culture is, in an organization's context, I mean, it is, what is it to, be and work and, engage with the system. As an individual, how does it feel? And what is the smell and feel of this workplace? That is what I loosely define as culture. And every organization has a cultural context. Okay? That cultural context is relevant to the business and strategic context. And as long as the cultural context is in sync with what the organization is trying to achieve at a business level, then the culture is facilitative towards the business. Okay? And this cultural context is very deeply ingrained in the DNA of the organization. Okay? And one of the biggest challenges we have as HR professionals is when you're hiring somebody, there's this classical question, is he a culture fit into this organization? It's a very fuzzy question, but it's a very powerful question.
First of all, we've seen that there is a relationship between culture and engagement. are these employee engagements so overrated? And if they are, what should we do about it? How do we not do the survey or do the survey and still get the pulse of the organization and have our attraction and retention in line with the thinking of the masses? So, Professor, let's start with you.
Fortunately, I had been involved into some of the surveys, and my own judgment is this, that surveys don't reveal correct picture. However, they are very important because the surveys allow you to compare. Even if the scale is not correct, it is the same scale that you're using across organizations in the industry over the years. So, when you compare 2015 result with 2014, however imperfect the survey instrument could be, still you are getting some idea, and it does throw up some element. However, what is actually very important is not just looking at the metrics which are typically used in the survey, but to use many other kinds of behavioral details which are not captured by the survey.
We all know that we do surveys for engagement. So engagement surveys are done. We do benchmarking of engagement surveys also, our score versus the industry benchmark or blah, blah, blah. But we've never heard about culture being benchmarked. And yet there is a relationship between engagement and culture. So I just want to understand from you all, why don't we benchmark culture ever? Why is culture so internal, engagement so internal and external, and yet we say there is a strong relation between the two?
Personally, I am not a great believer in benchmarking cultures across organizations. Okay. I think what is important is what has made an organization successful and what are the ingredients of culture which facilitates that success. And is there anything that I can pick up which kind of dovetails beautifully into my cultural context?
Right.
Okay, so that is my very simplistic answer to it. And because I think this whole benchmarking and trying to find out best practices is, I think, I personally feel it's slightly overrated. Okay, because I think organizations also need to reflect inward and introspect and see what has made them successful and what are the reasons they have not been successful. If you have a high ability to introspect and compare yourself with the other peer groups in the industry or other people, so I think it's a combination of what your ability to look inward and your ability to see what is going well and then amalgamate the best of both in your context.
Anu, do you think surveys and benchmarking make an impact? Does it really increase the engagement level? What's your view on it?
You know, I'll be slightly controversial here. You asked about culture is not benchmarked. How many times do we benchmark how satisfied our employees are with their compensation? I mean, we get that internally, but because we don't know whether that's the right method to benchmark. So not everything needs to be benchmarked. Everything needs to be, I mean, I really like the point Krishan made that what's driving success. So, I mean, personally, I'm not a great fan of surveys because I think it has to be reviewed in the light of what it's resulting into. You know, be it, I mean, financially, as you said, you know, be it the number of, say, bad employee relations issues you're having, be it, you know, say, your attrition, your, you know, hiring rates depending on number of offers you're making. There are enough metrics to tell you things are working, not working. We can always go through another survey, not why just engagement, even satisfaction, and then benchmark ourselves across the market. But can we truly do that? Is that the right thing to do?
In your organization, there is an MOM which is which gets signed in public sector organization, and employee engagement surveys have become very critical. What would your take on them be?
I would tend to believe that, as the professor has said, that they don't reveal the truthful picture. Yes, they don't, because it's end of the day perception of the individuals that you are submitting the instrument to. But nevertheless, it's better to have some information, and with all those fallacies and all those deficiencies that the survey instrument will have, year on year, if you get information, you are at least much better than not having any information. But the biggest problem that lies in doing engagement surveys and thereafter not following up with the results is not taking any worthwhile action. So if you don't take any action on the outcomes that have been given by the people at large in the organization in terms of their perception, even if it's only perception, if you don't take any action, good or bad or whatever that is, then people tend to lose faith on the survey instrument and the process of undertaking engagement survey. So it's not fashionable to undertake engagement survey. It's important for the cause of the organization to know where they exactly they are headed to.
Umesh, we'll have your views.
For discussion, I will refer to, if you excuse me, Gallup Q12. It really gives you a reference point. Body temperature should be 98.4. This is a reference, right? Similarly, these surveys give you percentile. That company is working on 50th percentile, that group is operating on 60th percentile. Your leadership is under this, so you have to work on that. With this reference, you start discussion. You start communicating with that particular group where the scores are varying, right? So discussion helps you in certain improvements, right? This survey is not result by itself. It's a tool. It's an indicative tool. This indicative tool gives you some indication that on these 12 parameters or 6 parameters, you are doing good or you are doing not good. Or you must at least start a dialogue, dig out how we can improve on these fronts. This dialogue eventually results in many improvements. Actually, we all understand that in industry or in an organization, how do you improve? You improve only by discussing. You only improve by certain dialogue, then two-way process. That's what this survey helps.
Employee engagement surveys are definitely making a difference, but what has changed over these last 1 or 2 years is the relationship between talent and HR analytics with the engagement itself. So while surveys can give you group-wise, demographic-wise finding of the various drivers and the engagement score, what HR analytics and talent analytics, especially the predictive model is doing is it's not just looking at groups of people, it can predict which individual is going to leave you at what time of what week. So it may not be 100% reliable, but statistics is making a difference to the engagement and it is contributing in a big way.